So our next review is One Night in Miami, and this is about one evening on the February the 25th, 1964, where four icons of sports, entertainment and activism celebrated one of the greatest upsets in boxing history in a modest motel room in Miami. Now, after claiming the world heavyweight title for the first time, Cassius Clay, played by Eli Goree, got together with three friends: human rights activist Malcolm X, who's played by Kingsley Ben-Adir, music superstar Sam Cooke, played by Leslie Odom Jr., and football legend and emerging action movie hero Jim Brown, played by Aldis Hodge. Now, One Night in Miami is the fictional imagining of the historic night these towering figures spent together. The four men engage in passionate debate about their roles as celebrities and leaders as a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement. Directed by Regina King and written by Kemp Powers, based on his award-winning play One Night in Miami, let's take a moment to take a look and listen at a clip.
Yes, Cassius Marcellus Clay is the new heavyweight champion of the world, boys.
Yes, he is.
And I don't even have a scratch on my face. Oh, my goodness.
Cash.
Cash?
What? Cash, what?
Why am I so pretty? And I'm only 22 years old. There is no way I'm supposed to be this great. Look, Alexander the Great conquered the whole world at the age of 30, and I conquered the world of boxing at 22 without sustaining so much as a scratch.
That's right.
There he goes.
You do the math.
All right. When is this party going down?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's on the agenda, Malcolm?
Well, I thought this would be a wonderful chance for us to reflect on what's happened tonight. Like our young brother said, there's no denying that greater forces were at work.
You mean no one else is coming?
Oh, rest assured, my brother, you're not missing anything.
So that was a clip from One Night in Miami. I think that's a really great clip. We've got all of our protagonists and all of our characters there. Where do I start with this film? Well, it's a theatrical directorial debut for Regina King. She has done some documentary and TV work as a director, but this is her theatrical debut. The screenplay, as Craig said in the introduction, is by Kemp Powers, who also worked on the screenplay of Soul. What I would say about this film is it has a really good start, Craig, and it does really, really well in introducing all of our main characters. One by one, we're given an introduction to them. And I can't emphasise enough how huge in themselves each of these characters are. Hugely important historical figures, cultural figures, social figures, and people that represented power at a time where black people were being horrifically oppressed.
Absolutely.
And I actually watched a short documentary on YouTube about Malcolm X and Cassius Clay and these four gentlemen, about what it was like socially and culturally for black people at the time. And I've done my research, I know history quite well, but seeing it again unfold in this documentary really just drove home how important and how big these figures were. And yeah, I mean, I could talk a little bit more, but I'd love to hear, Craig, what you made of the film.
Well, first of all, Kemp Powers being the writer on this film, writing the play, but also then writing the screenplay for this film. His idea for this film came about from reading a paragraph in a book that touched upon that these four people met on one night in Miami, and that's all he knew about that night. He devoured everything that he could about these people's lives, learning about how these four people sort of converged and how they might have become friends, and that these four black men that were so unapologetically, talking outrightedly about their civil rights in each of their own way. And it's Kemp Powers' way of bringing these four characters together and understanding their motives and understanding their choices in life and why they wanted to do the things that they do, and but also looking in depth at their responsibilities as these incredibly powerful black people in society at that time, and being these trailblazers in the sense of, you know, being on top of their game in music, in sports, in film, and being simply a civil rights activist as well. And you know, the film is just wonderfully acted, and it does feel a little bit like a play. And I think we got that same sentiment from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but it didn't feel too confined like a play might when you're in a theatre. It felt open world almost. It did feel like there were obviously other locations used, but the majority of the film is taking place within that one room in a motel. And the way that the camera moves, however, through those scenes, it's not too dissimilar to that you know, not the recording studio, but the rehearsing room in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, where it's a very small, confined room, but the way that the camera gets so up and personal, and the way that the camera moves and interweaves between the characters and spins almost, that it gives you this much bigger sense of where they are in the world, as well as being in this room. And the way that the characters and the actors carry themselves in this film is true testament to the way that we overlook this very play-like script, because it is adapted from a script, and it's adapted by the person who originally wrote it, who's going to want to keep in as much as he possibly can that he thinks is worthy of it. He's no stranger to writing a script for movies and stuff. As we said, he's worked on the script and the story for Soul. So, you know, he is somebody who is aware of where and how the direction should be going. But Regina King, being you know, her theatrical debut here, she, as you said, she has done TV, and she has done like TV movies, perhaps, I think she's done as well. But she's off the back of winning Best Supporting Actress, was it, at the Oscars?
In 2018.
In 2018 for If Beale Street Could Talk, was it?
Yes.
And she the reason why they chose her to direct this film was because of her Globe speech, because she also won a Golden Globe, and her speech really moved a lot of people that were working on this film, producers, and they felt that she was the right choice off the back of that. And then looking at the work that she's done on TV and stuff in terms of directing, she was the right person. And I think she definitely was. She got the best out of these actors. Like, really, really did. Ben-Adir, sorry, forgive me, I'm going to get that wrong. Kingsley Ben-Adir, there we go. He was absolutely, like, 100% Malcolm X in this film. But his own version of Malcolm X. Like, he just sold this film to me. And but not only that, Eli Goree, who plays Cassius Clay, who goes on to become Muhammad Ali at the end of this movie. A lot of you history buffs out there will know this. If you don't, I apologise for possibly spoiling the film for you there. But it to be fair, it's written in history. Everybody knows who this person is. If you don't, then you know, now you do. He's for me, he's absolutely sensational as well. He's just on top of his game in this film. And then Sam Cooke, Leslie Odom Jr. is musically breathtaking as well as acting. And just, I mean, even the opening to this film with Jim Brown, who's played by Aldis Hodge, that opening scene was unbelievable. Like, when that, I don't want to spoil it because it's a brilliant opening, but when that moment happens that everybody's going to go, oh damn, this is what we're talking about, like this is what this film represents, that moment, like the look on his face, like the way that he reacted was just incredible. This film, for me, on first watch, was one of my favourite films of this year so far. And I know we're not far into it, but we've watched quite a few films, and possibly maybe the last 3 months, I'd say. This film was, until I saw Malcolm and Marie, my favourite film so far in the last 3 months. That's saying something, I think, because Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was incredible as well.
Yeah,
we're into the season where Oscar films are coming out.
Yeah,
no more so, it would seem, on streaming platforms at the minute, but just incredible films. And this is number 2 at the minute for me, 100%. What did you think on your first watch?
So I've actually watched this film twice. I'll be honest, so me and Craig don't watch these films together for obvious reasons. We don't live together and there is a lockdown. But we do text each other and we don't give any spoilers away, but I knew that Craig was quite hot on this. So I went in with quite high expectations. On my first watch, I must admit I was not let down, but I took issues with some of the things in the film. I think the edit could be tighter, for example. I think the film is maybe a little too long, and there's certain scenes that I think could be cut out and make it a bit more like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, a bit more of an intense piece. But it was my second watch, actually, that really... I'm not as hot on it as Craig is, but it was my second watch that really bumped up my opinions of this film. Because as Craig so eloquently put, our 4 actors here... Kingsley Ben-Adir, Eli Goree, Aldis Hodge and Leslie Odom Jr. in their own right give fantastic performances. But for me, Kingsley Ben-Adir as Malcolm X, I said to Craig, I think he steals the show. And I think you disagree with that, don't you? You think they're all...
I think they are all absolutely...
on par.
I wouldn't say they're absolutely on par, but I don't think he steals the show. I think they are, without with one of them, the film almost falls apart. You need to have all 4 of them for the film to be carried. But Malcolm X and that intense character that is, here, that he is the person that connects all of these dots together in that sense. He is a very necessary character, and one that is very much so needs to be on point. And I think Kingsley Ben-Adir did an absolutely spot on job with him. He really did. But not quite stealing the show, but definitely carrying it, definitely connecting the dots.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that second watch, it's Malcolm X that is saying to these people, you've got a musician and 2 incredibly powerful black sportsmen. He's saying, you must use this platform to help implement change. And there's certain speeches that are absolutely brilliant. Online, Craig, I don't know if you know this, in my research, there's obviously a lot of comparison between Kingsley Ben-Adir and Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington played Malcolm X in Spike Lee's film called Malcolm X in 1992, which I have seen. It's a very different film and it's a very different performance, because Malcolm X sees Malcolm X develop from where he was in prison and stuff like that into who he became, whereas Kingsley Ben-Adir's Malcolm X, he's already made that journey. So to me,
and you also see the humor that you don't see as well in that 1992 film. Like, you see this Malcolm X that has these jovial moments with his children, and you see this love as well for the children and for his wife as well, and I think that is, in that sense, it's a very different performance and a very different Malcolm X in that sense as well. It's the same person, but it sees a different side to him and imagines a different side to him as well, because those conversations are obviously not visible. It's what Kent Powers has imagined that these conversations would be, and also it's just carrying the fact that social responsibility in that time, in that era, for when social responsibility for a black person is just so important. That if you are a powerful, respected in somewhat man in society by a black community, you've got to rally those troops. You've got to try and fight for what is right, and you've got to show the that the prejudice that's going against them is just wrong, and highlight it. And he so does that. And Malcolm X, he's telling them, you've got responsibilities as a musician to write songs about our history. They compare, and the struggle as well. And he plays, there's a moment in the film where he plays a Bob Dylan track and says, this is a white man who has written our story. Why haven't you done that? It's such a great moment in the film. And no more. I'm not saying any more now, because I think you can ask me questions a bit, unless you have anything else to say, really.
I mean, I did have a bit more to say, but if you want to round it... No, it was just... I just wanted to say, like you said, that comparison between Denzel and Kingsley Ben-Adir, different films, different scripts, different directors. I think it's like comparing apples and oranges. The encouraging thing is that Denzel Washington did go on to get a Best Actor and a Leading Role nomination, and Kingsley Ben-Adir is very, very, very much in the Oscars race. And that's all I wanted to say, really. This film is going to be potentially nominated in 4 or 5 different categories. It could get a Best Picture nomination. I think it will get a Best Picture nomination. But I watched this film twice, and I'm glad I did.
Good stuff. So I'm going to ask you questions then. David, One Night in Miami, is it worth it?
Yes, One Night Miami... Do excuse me. Excuse my buffoonery. One Night in Miami, which is currently available on Amazon Prime, is definitely worth it. It's a fantastic theatrical directorial debut from Regina King. It features 4 powerhouse performances: Malcolm X, Cassius Clay, Jim Brown, Sam Cooke. One Night in Miami. What more could you want? Watch this movie. Oh, good Lord. Craig. Craig, sorry, I got so carried away there. I forgot about you again. Oh, damn it. Craig, One Night in Miami, is it worth it?
Yes. For the reasons you've already just outlined there, for the reasons we outlined in this review, this is 100% worth it. Go and see it. Again, if there is a theatrical release of this in your local cinema of any sort, I know UK listeners, you're not going to be able to go and do that. We are in a full lockdown. But you guys can go to Amazon Prime if you have Amazon Prime and watch it right now. But those in the US and other countries that are able to get to a cinema and it's playing in a cinema, go and see it. It's fantastic. 100% worth it.